Trap Harder Tuesday. Just got back home from the yard. Got that big back day. Big back day motion. We stand on the grind. We stand on the hustle. It's far from the time to get complacent, get soft, get lazy. Let's lock in harder. Let's grind even harder. But let's get right into the nitty gritty, right? You know, another correction officer video. I'll be seeing all y'all's questions, bro. So I steadily write them down and I do a video, you know, answering your questions because it's easier if I can come on here and explain it, you know, feel like you face to face versus me writing the paragraph, long response in the DMs. I just write them down. I write them down and I get right to y'all's questions, bro. So, you know, a lot of questions, a lot of good people all around the country, you know, getting into corrections, going through the hiring process, bro. I'm loving it. I love it every time y'all tell me, bro, one of my videos helped you out, helped you to get higher. I be having people in other countries that work in corrections that's been shouting out my channel. That mean a lot to me. That make me feel proud. It make me feel good, bro. It made me feel like I'm making a difference out here. It really does. It really made me feel like these videos is making an impact. We're going to keep going. I'm not stopping. We're going to keep dropping them, bro. Let's get right to the nitty gritty, though, bro. Let's see. Somebody asked me, is the BOP or the state better? You know, the BOP, federal prison versus the state. My response to that, you know, it's different for everybody. Everybody's situation is different. You know, you got to evaluate everything that comes with deciding what facility, what agency you want to apply to. You got to look at the pay. You know, back when I was applying for the feds, the BOP, back in 2012, you know, the BOP was considered like the king of the hill, the top dog. This day and age, though, a lot of state and county jails, they have increased their pay to match the BOP. That's why we having a problem in the BOP, you know, as far as recruiting, because the state agencies, the county jails, they increased their pay over the year. Now it's almost the same. And then on top of that, you know, especially where I'm at, the North Carolina DOC state prisons out here, you know, you working there, you get every other weekend off. You know what I'm saying? So coming into the BOP, you know, you probably not going to have hardly no weekends your first year or two. That's just how the game goes. It's still a good career. It's been more than good to me. I love working. You know, where I work, I got 12 years in, so I'm just trying to finish up strong. You got to look at stuff like certain states, the pay may be even more than the BOP. Like states like California, New York, DOC, bro, them COs up there on the state level, man, they making bank. I'm telling you, I'm not lying. I'm not exaggerating. So, you know, somebody asked me, they was living out in California. They was like, is the California DOC, I think it's, what is it, CDRC versus the BOP? You know, like I said, them COs out there making a fortune, bro, on the state level. You know, I'm pretty sure the feds level is making a lot too, but some states, you know, the state level pays more. You got to look into that. Look at where you live at. You know, maybe you don't want to move. So you looking at all the facilities in your area, right? A facility that you may want to apply to may be an hour and a half away, 2 hours away, versus this county jail, it's like 30 minutes away. This state prison, 20 minutes away. That makes a big difference, right? Because, you know, my first prison that I got on that, you know, my last prison I worked at, I was an hour and 10 minutes away. I knew I didn't want to do that long term. So when I transferred to where I'm at right now, you know, I bought my crib 10 minutes away from the prison. I wanted to be close as possible because that commute every day, you know, not only that, you got to get up at a certain time just to be at work by a certain time. You know, it adds up over time. You know, even at the prison I'm at now, it's people that live an hour and a half. Some people I know that live damn near 2 hours away from the prison. You know, imagine doing that every day, 5 days a week. That shit add up. Wear and tear on your car, gas, you know, especially if you get mandated, you get hit for a 16-hour shift, you still got a 2-hour commute, you know, versus me, I get hit for a 16, I'm only 10 minutes away. So, you know what I'm saying? That adds up. All of that you got to factor in, you know, the benefits, the retirement. You know, some of y'all that's coming into corrections, y'all may have military time, you know, depending on what agency you apply to. You know, the federal government, they have what you call military buyback time. They'll buy back your time. That's less years you have to work in order to be eligible to retire. The state level, they may not have that. You got to factor all that in. So I can't really tell you what facility or what agency is better than the others. You know, me personally, this is what I can tell you, though. You know, me working, my first facility was a county jail versus the prison. I prefer the prison over the county jail, just because I feel like it's less work working in the prison setting. You know, working in the county every day, you had to push the food cart up the hall, go every pod, pod to pod, passing out trays to all the inmates. This, working in the prison, when they call my unit to chow, all I got to do is announce chow, go unlock the door, they go to chow, and they come back to the unit. So, that's personally me, my opinion on what facility is better, state versus, federal, or jail versus prison. Next question. Will I be allowed to be a correctional officer if I practice a certain religion or if I'm in the LGBTQ community? This is the thing, right? There are laws in place. If somebody tries to discriminate against you based on your religion, your race, your sexual preference, you got a liable case to sue that agency. There's a lot of laws, man. They big on stuff like that. There's plenty of people at my prison, they practice certain religions. Some of them are Muslim. You got plenty of people that are, they got different sexual preferences, and as far as, you being worried about what people are going to think, hey, at the end of the day, you are who you are in this world. This ain't, if somebody was to try to hate on your sexual preference, you coming in to corrections, but it ain't the first time somebody to try to crack a joke on you just because you prefer a certain sex or religion, stuff like that. Hey, me personally, man, you are who you are in this world. You know what I'm saying? Don't let that stop you from applying. I respect everybody's opinions, views, religion, your sexual orientation, how you identify. And corrections, bro, I need to know you got my back. When shit hits the fan, I got an inmate that's hostile coming at me, and it's me and you working, but I'm not thinking about your sexual orientation, none of that, but I need to know you got my back, bro. So apply, bro, apply. There's plenty rules and policies in play, that protects people from being discriminated against, when it comes to stuff like that. This is the next question somebody asked me. Relocating out of state, to go to a facility that's in another state. I went through that process. I was working up in West Virginia at 2 different facilities. Then I came down here to North Carolina. You know what I'm saying? So as far as transferring out of state or you applying to a prison in a whole other state on the whole other side of the country, you just got to have your ducks lined up. That's the best advice I can give you. When I applied and put my transfer in, to come down here, I had been stacking my money for damn near a year and a half. I knew I wanted to buy a crib, so I came down here. I was working with a realtor, getting everything lined up. Then my transfer got approved. I was coming down here like every other weekend, just setting stuff up. Then I finally, got my house. I bought my house. So I started putting everything in my name. I was stacking for a year. So I had bread saved up, to buy furniture, all that stuff, moving expenses. Depending on where you at, especially like in the feds, if you get a promotion, depending on how high your promotion is, they got what's called paid move. I don't know if they do that for the state or the county jail. When I transferred down here, it was all out of pocket. So you got to factor that in, moving expenses. You moving across the country, depending on how much stuff you got, how much furniture, stuff like that, what's going to cost a little bread. So that's why I tell you, if you willing or you want to try to apply somewhere out of state, stack your bread up right now. Be working on it right now. You don't want to get out here, you ain't got no bread. Now you scrambling. You might not get your first check. You just starting for like 2 weeks, shit like that, bro. So don't come out here unprepared. Don't transfer, go somewhere else and don't have a plan. You always got to have a plan. Make sure you got the job too. Don't just, you apply, okay, bet I'm just going to pack up and move and you ain't got the job. You might not get hired. You know what I'm saying? It got to be for sure with me. When I already knew my transfer had got approved, so bam, I'm in there. So that's when I started preparing, to go ahead and come down here, calling the realtor, calling the bank, getting my bank loan for my house, stuff like that. This is the next question somebody asked me. Is it really scary like what you see on the movies and TV shows? This is the thing. When you watching all these shows like Oz, Mayor of Kingstown, the movies like Shot Callers, Prison Life, stuff like that, bro, you got to remember, a lot of that is dramatized, so it gets people to watch the movie. It keeps the audience, captivated. It's stuff like that does go down. I've seen inmates get stabbed, commit suicide, do bizarre things, attack staff members, stuff like that, man. Big fights on the rec yard, shit like that. But it's not as dramatized as it is in the movies. You know what I'm saying? So don't get tripped up into thinking, oh man, it's scary, or listening to people that never worked in corrections or stepped inside of a prison telling you not to apply because it's dangerous, stuff like that. It's dangerous out in society, bro. These days you got mass shootings. You could be in Walmart, grocery shopping, minding your business. A crazy gunman, lunatic comes in there with an AR, just starts shooting random people. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it's safer, honestly, in the prison because it's much more controlled environment. You know, when stuff goes down, you hit your body alarm on your walkie-talkie, get on your walkie-talkie, say, I need assistance, I got to fight, this and that. It's a quick response time, you know, versus, let's say you, like I said, you out in Walmart, right? You know, gunmen start shooting. The nearest cop to come in there and respond might be 5-10 minutes away, 15 minutes. You on your own trying to fend for yourself, trying to hide, trying not to get shot. You see what I'm saying? So like I say, man, don't, get so much caught up into what you see in the movie. The movies are good. It's good entertainment. I like all them prison movies, prison shows. I've watched them all over the years. All my 14 years working in corrections. It's good for entertainment. But like I say, don't get caught up into that, man, when you working in the real thing. When you actually go behind that wall, you're probably going to see it's much more relaxed. Events and stuff that go down when shit hits the fan, it's much more isolated. Most days are routine working in the prison. This the next question right here. Is the academy hard? I answered this question on another video I posted yesterday. It's not hard if you prepare. As far as the tests go, the written test you do every week, as long as you study for the test, the teacher's going to give you the answers when y'all doing the classroom, classwork setting, and they're going to be like, you might want to know this for the test. All you got to do is highlight that and study the day before the test, the night before the test. That's all I did. Both academies I went through. The night before the test, I just studied real hard, study light, study right, study for a couple hours. Then you go in there before the test, study some more. Then you take the test. Boom, I passed them all easy. Flying colors, bro. As far as the physical part, I tell people this, right? You got a few months in a lot of cases before you go to the academy. Where I'm at, the BOP, stuff like that, they make you work like 6 to 9 months, maybe almost a year. Then they send you to the academy. When I worked at the county jail, it was the same thing. I worked about 8 months as an officer, rookie officer. Then they sent me to the academy. You know what I'm saying? The academy length is different lengths for every agency. Every agency is different. It might be 3 weeks. It could be 6 weeks. It could be an 8-week academy. Some go all the way out to down there 18, 24 weeks like it's a police academy. You know what I'm saying? So if you know that you got to go in about 8 months, something like that, go ahead and start preparing. If you go to the interview and they tell you they send you to the academy right away, as soon as you get hired, you going through the hiring process, you got probably a couple months before you finally get that call back saying you've been hired. Start preparing. Ask the HR, whoever's interviewing you, what does the academy consist of? When they ask you, do you got any questions? That way you can start preparing, going to the track, timing yourself while you running, see how many push-ups you could do. If you got to do a certain amount of push-ups, whatever test that they require you to pass, you can start preparing now. This is the next question I get asked a lot. How do I maintain work-life balance? Coming into corrections is not a traditional 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, weekends and holidays off. So you're going to have to structure, your life around your new schedule. You may come in, you may be on second shift, you may be on nights. I've worked every shift. You may have to work the weekends now. You're going to have to work some holidays, So say, for instance, you got to work Thanksgiving. You got to work second shift, 4 p.m. to midnight. You may have to eat Thanksgiving earlier with the family before you go into work. Stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? You got to work day shift on Christmas. You working 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. You may have to get up a little earlier before work and open up the presents with the kids. Say you off Monday, Tuesday instead of being off on the weekends. Maybe your family, y'all used to go out every weekend, but now you in corrections. You off Monday, Tuesdays or Tuesday, Wednesday. You all might have to start doing family night on those nights, bro. You can make it work. It's plenty people that make it work. Plenty rookies, man. We all go through that process, including me. I had to work my way up. I didn't just come in having the weekends off. I get the weekends off now because, like I said, I got 12 years in, so I done built and worked my way up. You got to move up the rankings. As more and more people retire, get new jobs, get into other positions inside the prison, you'll move up slowly but surely, bro. You just got to stay down, keep doing your job. This is the next thing a lot of people ask me. Do women make good COs, bro? It's so many women I work with at my prison in so many different capacities. Plenty female officers that work in the kitchen, counselors, case managers, secretaries, the associate warden where I'm at is a woman. It's plenty women working in correction. Don't let that deter you. And there's some that's like, man, little itty bitty things, bro. We got a few officers that's like 5 feet, 120 pounds. They work at the same facility as me, men's facilities, bro. So it's all about your verbal usage, de-escalation skills. Can you get the inmates to do what you need them to do without having to use physical force? You may have to use physical force, being undersized, being small in stature. That could be an issue. It might not be. You never know, bro. I get dudes that ask me, they be like, I'm like 5'7", 140 pounds. There's dudes in there that's skinny. You got people in there that's big and out of shape, bro. We got people that, I don't like to talk bad about people. I'm just being honest with y'all. We got people in there that's like 400, 500 pounds. We're working as officers. You know what I'm saying? Man, I done seen some crazy shit, bro. We got a fight going on. They walk into the fight. They can't even run. They out of breath, out of shape. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, it's all about respect, giving the inmates what they got coming, and de-escalation skills. If you can get them to do what you need them to do without having to put hands on them, having to whip out your taser, OC spray, call for backup, bro, you won at the end of the day. It don't take the biggest, toughest, machoest dude to do that. I don't care if you damn 7'2", 400 pounds of all pure muscle, you bench 1,000 pounds. What you gonna do if you get into it on the unit with somebody and they gang, it's like damn 10, 20, 30 inmates surround you. But I don't care how big you, how strong you is, just you. And a lot of times you always gonna be outnumbered, man. Where I work, the unit I work on right now is just me by myself. And it's 100, what we had today. We had 3 new inmates coming today. So we sitting at 113 inmates and just me. During the daytime, you got the unit team that's there, the counselor, case manager, and unit manager. But we still outnumbered. It's like, 5 of us if something go down versus 100 of them. You know what I'm saying? So you got to always be smart, stay on your toes, be vigilant, all of that, bro. Oh, this is an important question too, man. I should have answered this one first. What's the pay and the benefits like? Like I say, the pay has increased a lot over the years, so coming in, you could expect anywhere from, depending on your state, the cost of living where you at, it could be anywhere from mid-50s as high as 70, 80,000 if you're in a high cost of living state. I tell the people this all the time, bro. It's a lot of overtime in all these facilities nationwide because there's a lot of staffing shortages. So there's plenty opportunities for you to work extra shifts. And like I said, double your income. The past, damn near 10 years, I've made over 6 figures. My income, my base salary right now is about $75,000. I done had a few promotions over my career, but after I work overtime, I'm well over 6 figures every year. It might be 130,000, 140,000, 120,000. My highest year, I think I was at maybe almost 160,000 after overtime. The benefits are good. You get your standard health, vision, medical, all of that stuff. You get life insurance if you get accidental death on the job. You get the family health plan if you got kids, the wife, husband, stuff like that. The retirement is usually good depending on the agency where I'm at. I tell people this all the time. Coming in, put as much as you can into your retirement account from the get-go and don't touch it. Don't touch it for nothing. Don't touch it unless you're trying to buy your first house, something like that. It's not a piggy bank to borrow from, to go take a vacation, stuff like that. Put as much as you can. I put about 20% in mine. I get a match, it's 25%. I keep increasing it every year too. So when I get a pay raise every year, I increase it. So let's say this year coming up, we get like a 2% pay raise. I'll bump it up by 2%. You're not missing that money if you put it in your retirement account because you got to remember, right? Nobody's coming to save you when it comes time for you to retire. If you were skimping on saving for retirement, you weren't putting your money up like you was supposed to, being smart with your bread, staying out of debt, not living above your means, bro, you going to be eating ramen noodles and canned beans when it comes to retire. I don't know about y'all. When it comes time for me to retire, I'm trying to be eating lobster, filet mignon, shrimp, traveling, eating good, living good. You know, I put my dues in. I paid my dues, put my time in. You know, I was smart with my money. Now it's time to live the good life. And I talk to people, you know, that worked with me. They retired. They've been retired. A lot of them, you know, they go to my gym, a few of them. A lot of them tell me they make more money from their pension, retirement, whatever other benefits and stuff they got coming in, they money they save. They make more money at the crib, retired, than they do working when they was working. So, you know, like I said, that goes to show you, if you've been smart with your bread, you could live a good life after you retire. Take care of your health. Don't let the job stress you out. Have a life outside corrections. You know, you're not a correctional officer 24/7. You got to always remember that. Let's see what other questions people ask me. Is there room for advancement and career promotion? There's plenty of opportunities out here. It's so many different agencies outside of corrections, even inside of corrections, right? You got so many different departments. You know where I'm at. You got recreation. You got food service. You got facilities, the people that go around working on stuff around the prison. You got rehabilitation. You got the re-entry program when the inmates getting ready to go home. You got lieutenants. You can promote up. If you want to stay in custody, you can promote up and become a sergeant, lieutenant, captain. There's plenty people, man, that started as an officer right where I'm at. They transferred all around the country, kept getting promotions. In like 10 years, they awarded it. You know what I'm saying? There's plenty of room for advancement. You know, as long as you doing your job, you know, they're going to promote you in due time, you know. And don't get mad if you don't get the job the first time around. Just keep applying. Stay down. Don't get angry. Don't start hating on somebody else that may have got the job. You don't know what they had on their background or why they got selected, bro. You know, and outside of corrections, you got all these different agencies. You got police officers. People tell me they want to start in corrections to become a police officer. Man, I feel like that's a great idea. I say go for it. You got the U.S. Marshals, Secret Service, probation, the Capitol Police. I've seen so many people at the prison I work at leave and go to other agencies. I've seen people go to ICE, FBI, Secret Service, Homeland Security. I got a couple homies I used to work with at the prison. They went up to DC, they Capitol Police. You know, there's so many opportunities in this field, you know, criminal justice field, you know, so don't never limit yourself. If you want to go for something bigger, you got bigger aspirations, I say go for it. Go for it, bro. Don't never let nobody hold you back. This is the last one right here. A lot of people ask me about, you know, the background check. What's the interview process like? The background check, I tell y'all this. Don't lie on nothing on the background check, especially you got somebody that's going to investigate you. They're going to be poking, picking, and prodding and everything in your last 10 to 15 years that you've done. They're going to pull your criminal background report, credit report sometimes. They're going to check for all that. So if you lie and it comes out, you're not going to get the job. You know, I get people asking me about the urinalysis test. You know, when they piss test you, you know, what are they detecting for? You know, the usual stuff that you can't be smoking, like weed, cocaine, barbiturates. They testing for all that stuff. So if you know you smoke, you're not going to probably get the job 9 times out of 10, you know, if you can't pass the urinalysis test. The medical evaluation when you go in for the interview, it's like a standard. You know, when you go for your doctor's checkup, they're just going to take your blood pressure, maybe do your vision, height, weight, stuff like that. It's nothing hard, bro. It's nothing to be, you know, scared of. This is a basic test, like when you go do your annual checkup with the doctor. The interview questions, there's a lot of scenario-based stuff, psychological eval. They just want to see how you respond in different situations. They want to see if you got the right mindset, the right mentality to be a correctional officer. They may ask you different questions. What would you do in this situation? It may come up to you and makes a proposition. How do you respond to that? Do you report it? Do you not do nothing? Stuff like that, bro. When I tell people, you know, how to respond when it comes to those questions, the best thing I can tell y'all is to always think policy and procedure, bro. What sounds like the most logical answer, bro? That sounds like a smart answer. That sounds like it's close to policy and procedure. Always remember, policy, and procedure, bro. That's going to save you every time. Y'all like this video, though, make sure you subscribe to my channel. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, at the Ghetto Bodybuilder. I got the merchandise for sale. Gym Bro University. I got a lot of gym, fitness-related, motivational stuff on my website. I'm big into the gym. If y'all just finding my channel, you know. If you just finding my channel also, I got over 100 videos on this channel, all on corrections, different topics that people have asked me, you know, different things that I feel will help somebody that's going through the hiring process, the academy, you know, dealing with different situations when it pertains to working in corrections. You know, it's on my correctional officer playlist, so y'all can check that out. Scroll down. Like I say, it's over 100 videos, bro. So any questions you may have, I probably already did a video on it, bro. But we're going to keep going. We're going to keep making these videos, bro. I'm not stopping, baby. Y'all know how we coming. Let's get motivated.